snow fell cold on a bitter night. John was gone for the morning light. They blame Karen, but it don't sit right. Too many secrets hid from sight. Oh, the badge runs deep, the law runs thin. They stack the deck, but truth won't bend. The judge looks away, the truth gets drowned. Ain't no justice in Canton Town. Proctor's story shifts and sways. Cameras vanish, records fade. The Alberts toast while the doubts grow strong. The folks still fight, won't be long. Oh, the badge runs deep, the law runs thin. They stack the deck, but truth won't bend. The judge looks away, the truth gets drowned. Ain't no justice in Canton Town. Proctor's story shifts and sways. Cameras vanish, records fade. The Alberts toast while the doubts grow strong. The folks still fight, won't be long. Oh, the badge runs deep, the law runs thin. They stack the deck, but truth won't bend. The judge looks away, the truth gets drowned. Ain't no justice in Canton Town.
Hey everybody.
Woohoo.
What up, y'all?
Well, welcome back. How was everybody's lunch?
Mine was delicious. I had a meatloaf sandwich.
Well, I mean, fancy.
I had frosted mini wheats in a shower.
Well,
I
priorities, I
threw
suppose.
away a lot of clothes that no longer fit. Well,
Okay.
Mr. Mo, so Mr. Mo's, redoing my room, so I may or may not have clothes that I did promise I would weed out. So I was trying to do a good wife thing, considering how sassy I am most of the time.
Did you also film a 10-minute video, or was that pre-filmed?
No, I filmed a 10-minute video too.
That a girl. Look at you getting things accomplished.
Well, when
These
I
girls-
saw
these
that John
girls are
Redcorn
independent,
was no
y'all.
longer among us, I had to get it out to all of my 5 fans.
Crazy story. I didn't catch the entire thing, but apparently he got into a dispute with his neighbor last night.
Yeah, and they shot him a couple times. I mean, this
Who?
is the
voice
voice actor
actor
for
for-
John Redcorn.
Oh.
I was going to say, you did the video. You should be talking about it, not me. I'm sorry.
Well, I was
Maybe
thinking,
didn't
I was
steal your
like,
thunder.
please let someone have yelled Nancy. And then I realized too soon, and that was really terrible.
Yeah, a little bit. That was a rough one.
Are you tooting over there, cat? Oof. My cat's tooting. Stinky.
All right.
Baker's going to be like, so what'd y'all talk about Monday? And we're going to be like,
Cat
you don't want to
farts.
know.
Yeah.
Naturally.
The state's 3 witnesses have been absolute crazy, but we're talking about cat farts, y'all.
Well,
Oh
I mean,
my gosh.
yeah, because I don't even know how one would even explain to Baker what, Miss John Denver's sister's testimony was all about.
Yeah. That was
'Cause,
crazy.
I mean, we had Proctor's testimony come in without Proctor's text messages. And okay, sir, I feel uncomfortable about this. You are in a group message with Chip, let's see, Bear and
Chip and
was
Bear are the
it
same
Whitey?
person.
Well,
Whitey
okay,
was in there.
like the man doesn't use the C word like a verb. Let's be real. And a preposition and a dangling participle, whatever that may be. He's over here like, I just look, I don't feel good. And then did you hear Brennan like they were gonna tear you a new A1? You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. We don't
Yeah.
like to use the ASS word in.
I can't wait to see him on Cross because if he's remotely close to what he was in Voir dire, the jury's going to hate him.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
will say this expert gets talking a little fast and she's not as precise with her words as I think you would need to be sometimes with a Brennan, but she's likable enough. She isn't like the neurosurgeon who's like, I have to go save lives and stuff.
Right. That guy was arrogant. He was arrogant.
Yeah. And just
And
blatantly so. Like, unlikably arrogant. All right. Let's get
You like
this.
Deaver, Alex? Alex liked Deaver. She was just, she wasn't, I don't know. She
What's
told
the
the
difference?
FBI one thing. Sorry, go ahead.
What's the difference between a lentil and a chickpea? And I paid $200 to have a lentil on me. Thank you. And there was another one, which I have not pre-read. Okay. What's the difference between jam and marmalade? I don't marmalade my rooster up a chick's arse. Can we get some... Listen.
morale
Sorry.
will continue until the jokes get better.
Yeah.
I want them really degenerate.
Easy now. Easy. Remember who you're
Oh.
talking to.
Fair point. Never mind. Mildly degenerate.
Jesus.
I forgot to whom I was speaking.
Yeah. Clearly. I would still like to try.
I would like more 90s rap songs. If you could get It's Hot in Here, lyrics in, knees weak, palms sweaty. She's worried about mom's sketty. If we could just.
Knees are weak. Sweaty. There's vomit on the sweater already. Mom's spaghetti's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud. Okay.
I never thought that Eminem would end up looking more like K.D. Lang as we got older. But he really is turning the Ellen DeGeneres kind of turn there and going straight to K.D. Lang.
You know what? You're not wrong either. That's a good
I know.
observation. See what
We
you
had a
did.
hot mic for a second.
See what you did.
Brandon, daggone.
I know.
This is on Mo. This is completely on Mo. This is Mo's fault.
And yet
this
he didn't go to
happened.
my channel.
Thank you, Brandon, for bringing up
Thanks
a
for
Bobo
sharing
so
with the
early in the
class.
stream. Anybody watch gosh, what You're the Worst, that show?
No.
Oh gosh. Hilarious. She called them abobos like so casually. The one girl that was very unlikable in it, but
That's funny.
so I've adopted that.
That's not bad. A Bobo.
Mhm. You get the idea.
Yeah. You know what I did just watch though? I just finished The Righteous Gemstones.
Fair point.
And no spoilers, but God, that ended weird.
Wait, I'm still working on My Name is Earl, so you're going to have to give me another 10 years, and then I will probably have gotten through Justified and The Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah, I haven't. That's actually probably the last TV show I watched, to be honest, was You're the Worst, and it ended like 4 years ago. I just don't have time for TV.
Yeah. I mean, I say
watch a
that,
lot
but then
of-
I've been watching these trials. So, yeah, I mean, these trials cut into my television time.
We've been watching the cooking shows, the top, next level chef.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I like
the
cool.
basement thing.
Except you get hungry, and ain't nobody gonna have like foie gras and or potatoes au gratin, at 12 o'clock at night. It's terrible.
Yeah. Baby Billy is the goat. He's pretty. I like the character. I'll say that. I like the character. I can't vouch for his moral compass at all, but I vouch for his character. The character itself, not his character. It's a pretty awesome show. And if you're not offended by male genitalia, it's a good watch.
Oh gosh.
I have to
There's
break
a lot of male genitalia, like a lot of it.
like more than Chernobyl and all the minor scene, or
More
Like
like
just-
boys.
More, I think. There's a lot of male genitalia in this show, you guys. It's ridiculous.
so
I don't
what's
even want
it
to
ab-
bring that
is
one
it
up
about?
on.
And I
Thank
was
you,
trying to
Brandon.
steer
I
us
see.
back to television show.
Like, no. I'm sorry. I have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, I'm okay with that one being just staying where it's at.
Ugh. Anyway, I think we got 2 members.
Ooh,
Denny Bacon
Nice.
and Universal Truth.
ooh.
Welcome.
Welcome,
Yeah.
welcome.
You can say unbelievable all you want, but I'm not getting anybody's little nuke.
Thank you for being so kind and thinking of all of us, not just
Yeah.
how funny
I
things would
mean-
be.
I did read a lot of those. That one has a lot going on. I hear things in the courtroom, but what's happening?
Playing like the spoons back here.
Why do they always? It always sounds like they're having a tea party in there. Like I hear silverware. I'm like, do they get served tea in Massachusetts?
All right, Mr. Leslie, whenever you're ready.
should
I'm
have
aware. Thank you,
clarified.
Your Honor. Good afternoon and
Not
welcome back,
everyone was in
Dr.
agreement
Russell.
when I opened my mouth hole. So
Your Honor, if we could please
Insert
publish
foot.
Exhibit 1 in evidence.
Okay.
Mr. Wolk,
Mr. Wolf.
Dr. Russell, do you recognize Exhibit 1 from your review of the documents in this case?
Sorry.
Yes,
And what is it that Exhibit 1 represents?
it's a picture of the forearm of the decedent.
And we left off at lunch, and I'm not going to cover too much old ground, just to reorient ourselves back to where we were. You were discussing the basis of your opinion and conclusion that you said that these wounds were caused by, why don't you restate? Well, let's continue on in the basis of your opinion. Let's just continue on. Can you go through what is in Exhibit 1 and describe how it is that you came to your opinion?
Well, I observed multiple patterns of striations or linear abrasions.
I'm sorry to interrupt you so soon. Do you have the pointer in case you want to use that available?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's multiple groupings of linear abrasions, and linear means like a line, linear. So there's multiple of those, and here's one. Here's another one closer to the elbow. Here's another one closer to the wrist, and here's another array of linear abrasions near the elbow.
In terms of these wounds, in assessing their source, do you look at them individually, collectively, or both?
Both. I look at them individually, and then I put them in context of how they relate to one another.
And how they relate to one another, is there a name of that methodology that you use in terms of how they relate to each other?
Well, I think it's a pattern methodology, pattern recognition.
And what pattern is it that you see here with regard to all of these wounds on the right arm?
Well, I see multiple linear groupings together in a area from the mid arm to the mid forearm.
Is there any analysis of direction that is involved in your analysis?
Yes.
What is it?
I believe that these wounds were initiated closer to the anterior surface or the front of the forearm.
I'm sorry, Dr. Russell, to interrupt you, but there's a fan back here which I can hear, but if you could just keep your voice up, that would be great for me.
Yes, I believe they all started closer to the anterior or front portion of the arm. Like they started up here, up here, and the direction is towards the posterior portion of the arm.
Now, if we could just go back briefly, I want you to do a comparison. If we could go back, Your Honor, please, back to Exhibit 157 that we had up earlier.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 167. As between 167 and 1, which one is closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located?
The previous one.
All right, so let's go back to the previous one. So that one is closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located on January 29 of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And so January 29, 2022, if we can go back to Exhibit 157, or 67, excuse me, 167, can you tell when this picture was taken from the depiction?
Well, it says January 31st.
Okay, so is that the basis for you saying that the Exhibit 1 was closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located?
Yes.
All right, so I want to do another comparison, have you do another comparison of the two. If you can look at what is depicted in Exhibit 167, and now go back to 1 and see if you see any differences at all as to what's depicted. Do you see any differences with regard to the wounds on the arm, or the arm just in general?
It does look more bruised.
Let's go back to see that now. Let's go back to 167.
Well, that's what I've said. It seems like someone was holding
Well, the
here.
color-
Yeah.
Or at least that's what it looks like to me. But they never really made any statements about the shoulder being bruised or anything. So I didn't know if that was maybe also lividity.
The
Did they
top
cover his butt?
two, yeah, the top two up there look much more bruised in the other picture. It seems like that bruise.
Oh yeah,
deepens
like
quite a bit. Like
right
something
here?
had a hold of the back of his arm,
Well, and those look like
and on the other
fingers to
side
me.
as well.
So
The
if someone
bottom side, Marissa.
gets
like
your
down here.
bingo wing,
Around
Yeah.
this too.
Yeah. It looks a lot more bruised. It could just be the lighting, I suppose, but it looks a lot more bruised to me.
It could also just be.
It could be lividity as
Lividity?
well. It could be.
I mean, I don't know that lividity looks like jaundice, but
I don't know enough to really know.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I do know that in high school, the wrestlers on the wrestling team, we used to sneak up on each other and pinch each other really hard in the back of the arm. And that was like the
Right
game we
in the
played in the
bingo
hallways.
wing. Ow.
And it would
Damn.
bruise horrifically if you got a good grab on it. It's a spot that bruises like crazy.
Well, yeah. Ow.
Oh, pre and post warming.
That
Could be.
makes sense.
Yeah, I think it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Context of how they relate to one another.
And how they
So the
relate
cold
to one
might
another,
have
is there
kept
a
the
name of
bruise
that methodology
constricted
a
that
little
bit, I
you
suppose.
use in terms of how they relate to each other?
Well, I think it's a pattern methodology, pattern recognition.
And what pattern is it that you see here with regard to all of these wounds on the right arm?
Well, I see multiple linear groupings together in a area from the mid arm to the mid forearm.
Is there any analysis of direction that is involved in your analysis?
Yes,
What is it?
I believe that these wounds were initiated closer to the anterior surface or the front of the forearm.
I'm sorry, Dr. Russell, to interrupt you, but there's a fan back here which I can hear, but if you could just keep your voice up, that would be great for me.
Yes, I believe they all started closer to the anterior or front portion of the arm. Like they started up here, up here, and the direction is towards the posterior portion of the arm.
Now, if we could just go back briefly, I want you to do a comparison. If we could go back, Your Honor, please, back to Exhibit 157 that we had up earlier.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 167.
Pause it for a minute, Mo. What
As
were you
bet-
saying, Lesko? Lesko, you were saying something about this photo then? It's going to take a second. There's a delay.
Yeah.
He was wanting to go back to this picture, so I'm assuming he's got something.
One has scrapes and the other has a massive gouge.
Well,
Like
if
this
the-
part? Or down here by the elbow?
The elbow, the big one on the forearm, and the one up top even, they do look different, right? They look wider, they look deeper.
Yeah. I mean, so the one on the upper arm, closest to the shoulder, looks like
Oh.
so say
Yeah.
we're
guess it
assuming
could
this
be
is a
blood.
dog. It looks like, deep wound or puncture and then tear back. The other ones look like they weren't able to get an establishment in there. So you have a more tearing than a kind of stab wound and scroll back, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I can't get back to it now. To
the right.
I quit, man.
Or both.
It's only Monday.
Both. I look at them individually.
Day one.
And
Doing
then
good.
I put them in context of how they relate to one another.
And how they relate to one another, is there a name of that methodology that you use in terms of how they relate to each other?
Well, I think it's a pattern methodology, pattern recognition.
And what pattern is it that you see here with regard to all of these wounds on the right arm?
Well, I see multiple linear groupings together in a area from the mid arm to the mid forearm.
Is there any analysis of direction that is involved in your analysis?
Yes,
What is it?
I believe that these wounds were initiated closer to the anterior surface or the front of the forearm.
I'm sorry, Dr. Russell, to interrupt you, but there's a fan back here, which I can hear, but if you could just keep your voice up.
We
that would
already
be great
watched
for
this
me.
like twice.
Yes, I believe they all started closer to the
I didn't hear you.
anterior
Sorry.
or front portion
Maybe.
of the arm. Like they started up here, up here, and the direction is towards the posterior portion of the arm.
Now, if we could just go back briefly.
Yeah, we did
I
3
want you
times
to
now.
do a comparison. If we could go back, Your Honor, please, back to 66 located.
There we go.
The previous one.
Sorry,
All right, so
everybody.
let's go back to the previous one. So
Oh.
that one is closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located on January 29 of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And so January 29, 2022, if we can go back to Exhibit 157, or 67, excuse me, 167, can you tell when
Yeah,
this
look at
picture was
that.
taken from the depiction?
Well, it says January 31st.
Okay, so is that the basis for you saying that the Exhibit 1 was closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located?
So this is 2 days later?
So I want to do another comparison, have you do another comparison of the two. If you can look at what is depicted in Exhibit 167, and now go back to 1 and see if you see any differences at all as to what's depicted. Do you see any differences with regard to the wounds
She
on
did,
the arm,
Livid.
or the arm just in general? Let's go back to see that now. Let's go back to 167.
Well, the coloration of the photograph is slightly different.
And what do you mean the coloration?
Well, the skin tones here are more yellow than they are in the previous photograph.
And what?
And-
I'm sorry.
That's 2 days later.
Do you have a conclusion as to why there is a difference in skin tone in this exhibit compared to Exhibit 1?
Well, it could just be technique, lighting technique. I do see some lividity on the chest, postmortem lividity, and that's what that means is pooling of the blood, which happens after death.
Can you explain to the jury what lividity is?
Yes. So
Crystal was right.
blood follows the laws of gravity, and the blood will settle to the dependent parts of the body. In this case, the body the body of Mr. O'Keefe is horizontal, and so the blood is going to settle from the top of the chest, which would probably be up here somewhere, down towards the back, which would be the inferior portion of the chest in that position. And likewise, it would happen on the extremities too.
So you just mentioned the extremities. Do you see any lividity on the extremity here, the right arm?
You know, actually, there is discoloration over here in the elbow area. I do see some lividity. Okay, so there's several areas of lividity on the arm. I'm sorry. There's some right here. This redness right here in the near the wrist. I believe that that's postmortem lividity. I believe that this redness in here near the elbow is also postmortem lividity. And yeah, that's what I believe.
Okay.
That's postmortem lividity.
And again, lividity is that you said something that sets in after death?
Yes, it's the pooling of blood.
Is there, with regard to this depiction, do you see any bruising with regard to that elbow?
You know, I think that initially, earlier this morning, with the lighting, I may have said that this was bruising, but now as I think about it, and I see all this other lividity here, lividity over here, I believe that's postmortem lividity.
And if we could go back to Exhibit 1, and you said this is the one that's closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located, do you see any lividity or bruising with regard to that photo?
I don't see any definite bruising. I do see some discoloration up here near the shoulder. I'm not sure if that's postmortem lividity or not. It could be early postmortem lividity.
So if we could, thank you, Mr. Wool, can we take that depiction down for the moment? What I'd like to do is and we'll come back to that. If we could have the lights back on, please. Thank you.
I don't think fully.
They haven't really
Have
addressed
you
it yet.
had
And I'm assuming she would still
experience
say no.
prior to this case in performing your pattern recognition methodology skills with regard to dog-inflicted wounds on humans? In other words, have you seen dog-inflicted wounds that have a pattern on humans?
I've seen dog wounds that have had a pattern. I didn't need to do it utilize that skill because I also had other information about the case. You know, for instance, police officer or the victim himself said, you know, I was attacked by a dog.
Right. And for those that can you give an example, like in ER, just as to how you would come to have that knowledge, or otherwise, how would you generally come to have the knowledge as to a potential source of the wound?
Oftentimes it's the victim that tells me, or in the case of the law enforcement dog bites, I had both victim and police officers tell me that the police dog inflicted these wounds.
And so and how many times generally in your career, we discussed it this morning, how many times generally did someone present with dog inflicted wounds and you were told that these wounds were from a dog? Roughly how many in your career?
Well, all of the law enforcement dog bites. So that would be 40 to 60 or so of those. Plus, most of the non-law enforcement dog bites, the patients or the mother have said this, a dog bit me, or a dog bit my son.
And for those where someone said something, the dog bit my son, were the wounds that you saw similar to or different from the wounds that are depicted in Exhibit 1 that we've had up on the screen?
On the civilian dog bites, there's some similarities, but not as many striations on the civilian dog bites.
And are the more striations on what's depicted in Exhibit 1, does that lead you to more easily conclude it's from a dog bite, or is it harder for you to conclude it's from a dog bite?
Neither.
So is your prior experience as an emergency room physician, as a physician in Cochrane, does that experience allow you to exercise pattern recognition skills with regard to Exhibit 1 in Exhibit 157?
Sustain.
Do you use your pattern recognition? Did you use your pattern recognition skills in evaluating Exhibit 1 in Exhibit 157?
Yes.
In terms of characteristics of dog bites, if we can go back to Exhibit 1, please. Is Exhibit 1 highly characteristic of a dog bite or lowly characteristic of a dog bite? How would you describe the characteristics of what appears on Exhibit 1?
What I see on Exhibit 1 is multiple strikes from a dog.
I'm going to allow it.
Can you please repeat
Good.
your answer?
Yes.
What you see?
Multiple strikes from a dog.
And with regard to, do you see any characteristics in terms of a medical observation with regard to those strikes?
I don't understand the
Okay.
question.
Are you familiar with the medical term pathognomonic?
Oh, yes.
What is the definition of pathognomonic?
Pathognomonic in medicine means that the characteristics of a condition are so highly specific and unique that they basically say that it can only be from a certain condition and no other condition. So to the exclusion of all other conditions. That's what is meant by pathognomonic. At least that's my understanding.
Do you consider these wounds pathognomonic?
Sustain.
How do you evaluate these wounds in terms of what you call their characteristics?
I characterize them as highly specific for a dog attack.
Highly specific for a dog attack.
The last word. She said I would describe it. Like her opinion.
In terms of the characteristics that you have talked about,
No, I'm not reading it.
are there any other aspects of
I
dog
just caught what she
dentition
actually
that
struck.
you can discern from?
She only struck the last word. She only struck attack. She was still
Oh.
stood. I find these highly specific for a dog. She only struck the last word. My bad. Okay.
Okay, I was wondering what she struck. I was gonna go back
You
and
heard me.
Yeah, I was a little. I was like, no way, but I figured it out. Okay, sorry.
Exhibit 1.
I don't understand the question.
You mentioned earlier when we had the dog dentition exhibit up, you mentioned an arch. Is there any aspect of exhibit 1 that concerns an arch?
Yes, there is, in my opinion, an arch-like structure right here towards the lower part of the forearm, towards the wrist, suggesting that this here is made from the very front teeth of the dog. Now, when one looks at these injuries or wounds, one has to remember that, number one, this is not a mannequin. This is a person whose skin is somewhat elastic, whose skin will slide over the underlying bones, and so therefore some of the wounds may have been created by the exact same teeth, for instance, but look differently, depending on the part of the anatomy, the elasticity of the skin, also depending on things like if there was clothing or something in between the teeth and the skin. So one has to consider and also there may be motion motion effects. The living victim could have been pulling away from the dog. The dog could have been, pulling or jumping and only catching a glimpse, a little slight bit of the skin with his teeth. So there's a lot of movement and things that one has to consider when an injury is inflicted on a body.
Yes, I'm going to strike that.
Can we approach, Your Honor?
Sure.
All right, Brandon. Not playing the Woody one, but I'll read this. What's the difference between a pregnant woman, frozen beer, and a burnt pizza? Somebody forgot to pull it out in time.
I think they're supposed to be. How are they the same? But still,
Yeah,
I
I
was
think
about to
so
say,
too.
aren't they all the same? Someone
Yeah.
forgot something.
still good.
We're just gonna go with it. Let him have his fail.
Would that make a beer slushy?
Yeah, it does that. It's delicious. I love
It's
it.
a doll.
Woody from Toy Story.
Oh, oh boy.
Oh,
This cat is digging his claws in me.
Well, then you're going to have a pattern to recognize.
But how do you
right.
determine?
Oh, come on. There we go.
So I believe John was wearing a t-shirt and then like a light knitted hoodie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like a sweatshirt, but like a knitted kind of lighter layering hoodie.
Yeah, it wasn't really like a sweatshirt, like fleece. It was like jersey.
Yeah.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Or
If we could
cotton.
put the exhibit 1 back up on the screen, please,
Ouch.
Mr. Wolf.
Damn cat.
Dr. Russell, is what's depicted on the screen one dog bite or more than one dog bite?
Ask it differently, Mr. Wilson.
Dr.
Oh, Mr.
Russell,
Lisi?
can you determine from this depiction, how do you evaluate this depiction with regard to dog bites?
Well, I see several groupings of wounds. Here's one grouping up near the shoulder. Here's another distinct grouping near the elbow, but above the elbow. Here is a third grouping around the back of the elbow and the upper forearm. Here's some additional marks. I think they're separate, but I don't know exactly if they are separate dog bites or scratches. And then there's another grouping around the posterior forearm near the wrist. So 1,
Yeah, those look
2,
like the
3, 4. There's at least 4 different types of either bites or combination bite and claw marks.
You
Okay,
mentioned
also,
claw
I'm still
marks.
throwing this out there.
Is there any
Jen.
evidence?
Those last 3 by the wrist, those are Jen's lower teeth.
Especially the missing part right here.
That's
All right, love.
Terrible.
I'll read it. I'll humor you. What do a nearsighted gynecologist and a puppy have in common? A moist nose. Thanks, Brandon. You know
was
what?
good.
I think Baker will have plenty of fun without your demonetization of his channel.
Fair point, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
You mentioned claw marks. Is there any evidence of claw marks in this exhibit?
It's hard to say exactly what what these marks are. This one here,
Move
this
your
one
mouse.
here.
Thank you.
And even to a certain extent, this one here has some characteristics of both claw marks and bites. So
Even though you may not be able to determine whether it's a claw mark, can you determine, or the specific type of mark, can you determine that those are from a dog?
I believe they are, yes.
So now let's go. You mentioned, we'll switch. We can leave that up for just a moment because we're going to come right back to it. And Dr. Russell, earlier on, you used the phrase incomplete dental impression. Do you recall that?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah. What phrase would you like to use? Because you were describing whether a dog or not had a complete bite. What phrase would you like to use?
That's okay. Incomplete bite, I
Okay.
might
Do you
consider.
see any evidence of an incomplete bite on Exhibit 1?
I believe all of the bites here are incomplete.
Why do you come to that conclusion?
Because in my opinion, they don't penetrate the skin, which I would consider more of a bite or more of a complete bite. So they're
what'd you just say?
scratches on the surface of the skin.
When you say they don't penetrate the skin, we see the marks that are on there. What do you mean that they don't penetrate the skin?
They don't penetrate the full thickness of the skin,
That makes sense.
extend into the soft tissue underneath.
And what, in terms of incompleteness that you just described, have you observed incomplete dog bites in your career?
Many.
Roughly how many incomplete dog bites have you observed and treated in your career?
Over 100.
In our incomplete bites, the majority of bites from civilian dogs, or are they a minority of the bites from civilian dogs?
I believe they're the majority of the bites of civilian dogs.
Did you determine whether these wounds occurred at the same time?
I believe they did.
Why do you come to the conclusion that they occurred at the same time?
Because of the wound characteristics, the coloration of the wounds, the tissue reaction to the wounds. So they all timing are at the same time, around the same time.
Did you determine whether these wounds were sustained by Mr. O'Keefe before or after he died?
Before he died.
How do you reach the conclusion that these wounds were suffered by Mr. O'Keefe before he died?
Because they have what we call a vital reaction. So there is an ever so slight vital reaction or inflammation around the edges of the wounds. And so that determines that, that supports the fact that they were inflicted during life.
Dr. Russell, did you observe Mr. O'Keefe's
How long
right
can that
arm
happen? Or how
personally?
soon can that happen?
No,
You're muted.
So
How soon can
vital-
that happen? The vital reaction? Was that like an immediate thing? Could that determine potentially how long
Well,
before death that wound
I would
happened?
think
Because the
bleeding
Commonwealth
would be
story is like
considered
immediately.
vital.
No, she said it was an inflammation of like the tissue, right?
You're going to have a reddening, but also you can tell if something was actively bleeding.
Jesus Christ.
I
Okay, I rescind my order. No degeneracy, Brandon. Back to focus.
like. There are none of these that I actually care to. No.
Is it generally accepted in the practice of medicine,
We appreciate both of your
particularly
support.
emergency or pathology, to observe and
Terrible,
determine the
Will.
source of the
Terrible.
wound from a photograph after death?
It is generally accepted.
And have you, in your career, used photographs to determine wounds and patterns of wounds?
Yes.
And is that an accepted practice?
Yes.
And it is a generally accepted practice.
Yes.
Now, in conducting we're going to switch a little bit now to what you call the differential diagnosis. In conducting your differential diagnosis with regard to motor vehicle accidents, describe for the jury how you performed that differential diagnosis with regard to the decedent. And we can leave that up for just a moment. Go ahead, Dr. Russell.
So I'm gonna need to see you. Sorry, folks.
She looked like she was like, I am trying to not be mad at you, but I hate you.
Yeah,
She's got
I
a
wonder.
weird breathing thing where she exhales out of her mouth and it like
She looks like
smears
she's
her
about to
cheeks.
vomit.
I
Like
think
she's actively nauseous.
Well, I think she's not in the greatest of health. And then you've got to think a lot of traveling, going from Los Angeles to Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But I wonder
But-
if this differential diagnosis is where we're going to get in why she doesn't think it's a car wreck or a car accident.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
Freckle Ginger says pretty much instantly on the vital response.
oh, cool. And thank you, Freckle Ginger.
As soon as your body detects a destruction, it sends help to protect itself. Swelling is. Oh. Oh my god. Man. Make me start drinking. Thank you, Brandon. A man walks into his kitchen with a bird and says, "This is the pig I've been sleeping with." His wife says, "That's not a pig, that's a duck." Man says, "I was talking to the duck, not to you." Thank you for the animal story.
I'm glad we're back on track. Back on track. We've dipped below the clouds again.
I guess I can technically read this one too, because you did it wrong. A woman walks into a doctor's office complaining of acute angina. The doctor says, "You aren't watermelon bad either." Thank you, Lefty.
You got to get it
Yeah.
right, you guys.
Yeah.
You only got one shot. We already been through this.
Yes.
Ugh, what are we doing now?
Yeah.
Are we
I
all
have
the way
no
caught up?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's he objecting to here?
Differential
Is-
diagnosis, I think.
So what I think Alessi and the doctor are trying to get into, how did you, when given both car and, any other option, how did you come to recognize these as bite marks versus, a car accident? I could be wrong.
Pretty much
Yeah,
the entire reason she's here.
I think, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like he just says it to like throw off people's rhythm. But other times I think
so.
he's just kind of an asshole.
I think you're right on both accounts.
Yeah, and I think so. I do think what the state is going to really hammer on is the fact that there is no established methodology to determine whether an animal, bite is what animal.
May I
So,
proceed, Your Honor?
yeah, she's
With Your
written
Honor's
papers
permission
on
to
it, but there's no
republish,
established like scienceology.
Ah, gotcha.
And also, they're going to say
Yeah, proceed, Your Honor.
sideswiped and not hit full on with a car.
Yes.
with Your Honor's permission to republish Exhibit 1. Thank you for your patience, Dr. Russell. Is what the wounds you see on Exhibit 1 consistent or inconsistent with what you have seen from your experience with regard to motor vehicle accident victims?
Inconsistent.
Nothing about that looks like a vehicle strike.
If I could have published Exhibit 206, which is in evidence, Your Honor. Do you recognize Exhibit 206?
Yes.
Did you review that as part of any report in this case?
Yes.
And can you describe how you reviewed this document as part of your evaluation of this case?
Well, I reviewed the injuries, which are so this is a decedent, a picture of a decedent, a different case, not the decedent in this case, totally separate case.
And
So
is this from Dr. Welcher's report that you reviewed?
Yes.
All right, so continue, please.
Oh, this is that horrific
And
photograph.
so this is a
Marissa.
person deceased, looks like in the street.
Yes.
This is that horrific photograph that probably shouldn't keep on stream if they show it.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Holy
Okay.
God, that one. Yeah.
And he's got multiple injuries.
They start moving the
And
camera.
this is
down.
allegedly from an auto versus pedestrian accident.
So if we could, are you able to discern any injuries to any limbs from this? If you could zoom in on the limbs, Mr. Wolf, thank you.
So there is a very extensive degloving, partially degloving, avulsion injury to the forearm of this individual, the extensive skin loss, damage to the subcutaneous tissue, possibly damage to other tissues beneath that.
And Mr. Wolk, if you could zoom back out and go to the list.
Why is he saying Wolk
that
all of a
is
sudden? I thought his name was Wolf.
Yeah.
highlighted in the
Me
original.
too.
Yeah, it's WOLK. It was they had something posted about the
Wolk?
interns graduating, and they had his name spelled out, and that's how it is.
They
For
all
real.
just learned his name. His name was actually Wolf.
I think it's
they all
always
just
been
learned
like
it in real time.
I know,
Yeah,
because
none
I've
of
been
them knew
saying
it.
wolf.
I think they all did. They were saying it. We just heard it the way we wanted to hear it.
I'm pretty
Probably.
sure Alan Jackson was calling him Wolf. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
he could have been,
Pretty sure.
but you know. There was a super here it is. Why did the stormtrooper walk over the road? He missed the walkway. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Of this. And Dr. Russell, can you tell me whether you evaluated the list, and if so, how did you evaluate that list in connection with the photo?
Well, the photo is limited only really to the upper chest and the right arm. And so I can't comment on any of the.
You might be able to. How do you play it and still have the sound playing?
Well,
I'm just going to play it in the background.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't work for. I think if you put it on a screen, you can still put us over the top of it, so it wouldn't show anything. It's one of the layouts under the window, probably.
This one? Oh. It's not bad.
Oh, that's not even a photo.
Yeah, I was worried for nothing.
This list, but this was a list.
Freaking out over nothing, Marissa.
Numerous traumatic injuries to this person.
Lesko's got you all gun shy now.
Regarding the arm, it says right upper extremity wound with vascular injury, clinical.
What does that mean, if anything, to you?
Well, that suggests it's a soft tissue wound. However, what they're saying is clinical, so they're not commenting on if there were any X-ray findings, for instance. On an X-ray, but I mean, would be a post-mortem X-ray, and this is just a clinical diagnosis or a visual, hands-on diagnosis.
Do you know whether that line that you just read relates to any part of the photograph? Any part of the photograph?
Oh, I believe it relates to that injury that we pointed out in the previous photograph.
Can you switch back to that, please, Mr. Wolf? If you could just zoom in and just what does...
So this is the wound that they are talking about. It's a large gaping wound, soft tissue wound.
If we could go back to the list, please. Zoom in. Thank you.
But
please continue.
No. What I was going to say is that there are multiple other injuries in this person. Multiple serious, significant injuries, subdural hemorrhage, subarachnoid hemorrhage, intraventricular hemorrhage, liver laceration, pneumothorax. That's blood and air in the chest cavity outside of the lungs. So it's in an area where it shouldn't be. This person had numerous injuries.
Are you able to compare these injuries in that photo in this Exhibit 206? And did you compare them to your review of the autopsy report and other medical records of Mr. O'Keefe?
Answer the question? Oh. Okay.
You can take that down. From your review, did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any liver laceration?
No.
Did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any gaping, as you called it, lacerations to the right forearm?
No.
Did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any pneumothorax injuries that you were describing with regard to 206?
No pneumothorax.
Let's switch to another topic. Let's talk about clothing of the decedent. In forming your opinion, did you consider Mr. O'Keefe's clothing in relation to his wounds?
Yes.
If we could, Your Honor, have Exhibit 150 in evidence published.
Okay.
Do you recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 150?
Yes.
And what is it?
It's a picture of part of the hoodie, sweatshirt or shirt that Mr. O'Keefe was wearing at the time,
And wearing when?
at the time of his death.
And did you evaluate this photo as part of your review of the autopsy report?
Yes.
And we're going to come back to this. If we could please switch to, Your Honor, 147C in evidence.
Okay.
Thank you. And what is 147C?
So this is a close-up of the sleeve of that shirt that we just saw on the previous image. And there's a hole or defect here in the sleeve, which I'm circling with the pointer. And there's a label that labels it number 1. And so I see this hole that is rather round and appears to have some fabric coming out of the hole towards the exterior of the jacket or the shirt.
Rather round.
Did you attribute any significance to the shape of the wound? And if so, what significance?
The shape of the hole, yes. So it's rounded. I actually attributed a lot of significance to that.
Describe a lot of significance that you attributed to this hole.
Well, I believe that this hole was made by a canine tooth, and with the tooth going into the shirt, reaching the skin, and then coming out of the shirt, pulling out some fabric with it.
And we'll come back to this. If we could, Mr. Wolk, go to 147D as in David. That's.
I mean, if the tail light, let's entertain this for a minute, actually did those marks, wouldn't there be pieces of the taillight in his arm still? I mean, anytime it's like cut with glass or something, it sticks in me.
Well, but the state would say that they did find those pieces of debris in there after they'd been on the floor and on the ground and everywhere. So the people that are on the anti-Karen Reed side will say that they have proven that those came from the taillight because of the, microscopic debris that was.
Right.
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm simply saying.
But I just can't see how it would go through a shirt and come back out unless it was pulled out.
And there wouldn't be any of it stuck in him?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems extremely unlikely.
Like there would be a large piece still in between at least the arm and the
Especially with
shirt.
it being a knitted fabric and those being irregular pieces. I mean, ladies, I'm probably dating myself, but pantyhose, anything with an irregular little snag will get those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous, Marissa. That's why.
Yeah, it is.
That's why you can't think it correctly, because it's ridiculous.
Happy birthday, Val. 1 year closer to another prostate exam. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you.
What did the lover say to the prostitute? Keep the tip.
That's grimy.
It is. Thank you both.
I feel like this is the level of dad jokes we can do.
Yeah. It
No,
wouldn't make
the perfectly
holes.
round hole wouldn't make a round hole, period. That's a puncture from something pointy. Like that's not there's no way a tail light shard, no matter how you manipulate it, would make that round hole. No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
Oops.
evidence. Do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
What is it?
A round hole in the shirt, again with some fabric fibers pointing towards the outside of the shirt.
Is this the same hole that we just saw on 147C
Still
or a
talking
different
about
hole?
holes.
Could we go back?
No.
I don't know.
Okay, so let's now go back to Exhibit 150. What significance, if any, do you give to the various triangles that are on the hoodie? Could you describe to the jury what those are and what's their purpose?
So the triangles are labels that were placed by either the police or the crime lab or someone, and the point of the triangle generally is pointing towards a hole in the shirt. As you can see, there are multiple ones here, and I want to make sure that you don't confuse it with this rather large defect, which is caused by something else.
So let's start with each one, and we'll go through these quickly. Let's start and zoom in.
All right, before they start talking about holes again.
My neighbor's a 90-year-old man suffering from Alzheimer's. Each morning he comes to the door and asks where his wife is, and I have to tell him she's deceased. I only do it to see the smile on his face. Outstanding.
That one is kind of funny.
Oh, that's good.
And on number 1,
Do you guys notice anything funny about where those marks are
What
compared to where Blue Man Group's arm was covered?
Yeah, it's
So
a lot bigger of a
his-
space.
Well, his arm was more up in here, not really
Yeah, it was
so
more
much,
on the top of his arm, wasn't it?
not on the forearm. And interesting.
Anyway,
That
you
being
got
said, it is a stretchy material, so there is that possibility.
did you conclude about the source of that hole in the hoodie?
Sustained.
Did you evaluate what is depicted as number 1 in that slide as part of your review?
Yes.
And what was your evaluation?
Sustained.
Let's go back and zoom out. Have you in your career examined clothing either as part of your forensic pathology practice or your emergency medicine practice to determine the source of defects in clothing?
Yes.
How many times have you done that approximately in your career?
Several hundred.
And have you, in those several hundred times, have you ever had to reach a conclusion as to whether there was any connection between defects in clothing and wounds to humans?
Many times.
Can you give some examples of the many times you've had to look at clothing and defects in clothing to assist you in determining wound recognition in a human?
Yes. So let me clarify. It's mostly used in forensic pathology, not so much in emergency medicine. The clothing and the cause of the wound is as important as in emergency medicine as the treatment of the wound. But in forensic pathology, it's a key component to any examination where you think that it was an unnatural death. So, so I've done it in gunshot wounds, in stab wounds, multiple times. Looking at the defects.
That might be the best closed caption I've ever seen. Instaboons.
Oh
That
my
makes me
gosh.
happy.
That's funny. While we're here,
Tammy says, no degeneracy. Thank you, Tammy. Appreciate you.
oh my.
that's funny.
Well, let's not get too carried away here.
At least 97% of the time. At least 97.
Instabooms? Is that like meta baboons?
Wounds, multiple times.
They regenerate really quickly.
Looking at the defects, looking at the direction of the, of what I think the bullet, bullet track was, determining entry and exit wounds. In stab wounds, I've utilized them to help determine offensive and defensive wounds or injuries.
Hey, Pixie.
So yes, many times.
Have you ever performed that analysis? You testified earlier, 500 to 1,000 evaluations of dog-inflicted wounds on humans. Have you ever performed the analysis of defects in clothing and compared them to wounds on humans in the context of dog-inflicted wounds on humans?
I don't think so. Perhaps.
Well, yes. So in terms of, have there been any instances of doing that in your career? Have you done that at all in your career?
Maybe that one child.
All right. So let's go now to the.
What is that?
It's apparently coming from the courtroom.
Okay, it wasn't me. Her mic did go out, but holy crap. All right.
Turn it down a little bit. Okay, it was short-lived.
You were
Sorry, guys.
discussing the defects in the arm, as well as the wounds in the arm, and then the defects in the clothing. In terms of the back to Exhibit 1. In terms of that pattern that is in the arm, and in terms, let's go back to the hoodie. I'll strike that.
Come on now.
Have you, in your career, in the terms of evaluating motor vehicle accidents, have you evaluated the clothing of victims of motor vehicle accidents?
Yes.
How many times roughly have you evaluated what?
It is literally your turn to watch him. What have you done?
Not yet. Not quite yet. Almost. Almost.
Oh.
And thank you, Lesko, for being a member for 5 months. Free chat equals freedom of speech. Hells yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, well, you can go post your rotten shiza over there. Make Mo read it. She's the cause.
Hey, I got 6 kids to put through college.
Yeah.
Careful, Mo. Careful.
Hey, I'll just say that's special, Brandon. Thanks for sharing. If you can read, you can see it.
What clothing looks like in terms of motor vehicle accidents?
Well, in many cases, I had to cut off the clothing in the emergency department, so I observed the clothing then, and then in the post-mortem cases, I evaluated the clothing, but oftentimes sometimes it wasn't helpful.
Have you ever evaluated clothing in determining whether or not the defects in the clothing are consistent or inconsistent with a motor vehicle accident? Have you ever evaluated that as a forensic pathologist?
Not specifically.
Right. And in terms of your observations in either emergency medicine or forensic pathology, have you ever observed defects from motor vehicle accidents in clothing?
Yes.
Is what is depicted in this exhibit consistent or inconsistent with a motor vehicle accident?
Sustain.
In determining, let's go back to Exhibit 1, please. In determining and reaching your opinion with regard to the source of these wounds, is it necessary for you to reach that opinion to see a specific dog to determine whether the wounds are from a dog in general?
No.
And in your experience that you talked about earlier today, the 500 to 1,000, was it ever necessary in that experience to go locate the dog, to see the dog, to treat or evaluate the patient?
No.
Why is it, well, in terms of, we're going to move to another category, studies. Did you review any studies informing your opinions in this case?
Can we put the lights on and take this?
Yeah,
down,
yes,
Mr.
thank you,
Leslie?
Your Honor. Yes.
Yes, many.
And did those studies that you review support or not support your conclusions in this case?
Sustain.
Which studies did you rely upon?
Well, I reviewed quite a few, 10 to 20 in depth, and I relied a lot on 2 of the articles.
Do you recall the names of the lead authors in the studies that you said, that you just referenced?
Yes, one of them was Demuniak.
Could you spell that, please?
I wish. DEM
Did they just
UNNYCK, I believe.
Did they? I think they spelled that Philadelphia in closed captioning. We could put that one up there, and you could choose to read if you would like.
Leslie Lesko, thank you for the super chat. I've been thinking about this recently, and if I had to delete, I would drown in domesticated cats.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
I'm a woman of my
Could you
word.
spell that, please?
I said I'd read them. I didn't say I'd put Mo spin on them.
She was saying, spell that, please, and it came up Philadelphia, please.
DEMUNNYCK, I believe.
And was there?
And then there was another one, Pollock,
Say
POLLACK.
Bullock? Because I own that one.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, my recollection is correct. We've already pre-marked as exhibits for identification these studies, 2 studies. I may be incorrect in that. If so, I have studies. I'm going to show them to Mr. Computer. Yes, thank you. So we can just make sure I have all pages.
Do you think he wears a pocket protector?
A Leslie or
Mm-hmm.
No.
He just put a
Nah.
pen in his pocket, so I was curious.
Maybe.
Okay. If I can just have it.
Maybe.
and let's go. Thank you for the super chat. A man is waiting, and when the doctor walks in, he asks, "Where should I put my pants?" The doctor said, "Well, just put them over there next to mine." I mean, I like a doctor that tells me what we're gonna do for the day.
I think you're going to the wrong kind of doctor, Lesko.
To be fair, if your doctor lets you weigh in naked, let me know, because I think they've been cheating me out of some pounds for years.
And as one document, please.
The PPP, righty?
PPP. Better than OOO.
Yes.
Down the old PP. Yeah, you know me.
Such a terrible song, but a great song too.
Exhibit Q for ID.
Of course, I thought it was PTA, so I didn't quite understand why everyone was so upset about the song.
Mm.
Yes, Your Honor.
Which is what?
Exhibit PPP is the
I'm such a
exhibit
child.
QQQ is policy, the lead off. You're welcome.
There's chickens
Okay, leave them with
in my
witness.
ear going
Thank you.
absolutely ham right now. I can't hear.
I got a
anything
mosquito
other than
sprayer
chickens.
outside, so
Dr. Russell, I have
They're going crazy.
provided you with those two exhibits. I would ask
Very
you
hard to
to just briefly
concentrate.
take a look at them and let me know whether you recognize those as the articles that you were referencing before.
Yes.
Now let's start out with the Munich study. Is that exhibit PPP?
PP.
Right. So
Okay.
is this the study that you referenced earlier in your testimony?
Yes.
Can you briefly describe for the jury how that study related to the opinions in this case?
Okay. Sustained.
Are these the studies that you cite to as a basis for support for your opinions in this case?
Yes.
And is QQQ a study that also supports your opinion in this case?
Yes.
Now, in terms of your conclusions with regard to, if we can go back once more to exhibit number 1.
Thank you, Lesko, for another one of these, well, informational, PSAs. What do both a gynecologist and a pizza delivery boy have in common? Well, they both get to smell it, but they never get to eat it. Also, if you deliver in 30 minutes, it's free. Ask me how I know my last one. I was faster than Domino's.
This is Rai Rai. He's annoying.
Okay, Marissa,
can
if I
show you
yell at
how-
him and call him Dingus, it's because I profile and he looks exactly like Dingus.
All right.
With regard to your opinion on the cause of these injuries, can you once again state your opinion as to the cause of these injuries?
I believe these injuries were caused by a dog attack.
So I'm going to strike that word.
Yeah,
They don't
so
attack.
Dr. Russell, if you could, with regard to bite parlance, can you state what your opinion is with regard to bite? So do you have an opinion as to what caused these injuries?
Yes. I believe that these injuries are the result of dog bites and or claw marks.
And do you hold that opinion to a
I think she
reasonable
was doing that
degree
just
of
to stick
medical
it to Brennan, if
Yes.
I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
That is all the questions I have for this witness at this time.
Here comes Cross.
Yeah. It was a friendly bite.
Yeah.
He meant well. You've got no arms left.
She was just trying to hold on with her mouth. Oh, Lord, not you.
May I?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Dr. Russell.
Good afternoon.
Oh, he's gonna.
Dr. Russell, we've met
He's
before.
gonna be a dick.
Yes.
I've asked you questions before,
Yes.
and you've testified before where I've had a chance to ask you about some of your statements and opinions, haven't I?
Yes.
And you were a jerk.
Before this case, had you ever testified as an expert in dog bites in any federal court in the United States?
No.
Before this case, had you ever testified in any state court in anywhere in the country as an expert in dog bites?
No.
Other than this case, have you ever testified in a courtroom as an expert about dog bites?
No.
And
Last year, you learned that there was litigation regarding this case, Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
You learned a little bit of information about it, and it piqued your interest, didn't it?
Yes.
Did you know that the case was receiving a lot of attention?
No.
Did you know that it was on television?
I had no idea until I got here.
You
Oh,
spoke
she said
to
idea.
a colleague in Los Angeles, correct?
I'm sorry, I spoke to who?
A colleague?
I spoke to a district attorney in Los Angeles.
And did you just bring up the subject, or did that person bring it up to you?
I brought it up.
When you brought that up, is it because you knew of the relationship between that district attorney and somebody on the defense team?
Yes.
You wanted to get involved in this high-profile case, didn't you?
No.
Well, you weren't called by anybody on the defense and retained as an expert in the traditional sense, were you?
That's correct.
It was after you reached out yourself and interjected yourself into this case, true?
I did so for a reason. And
You could
reason
say
being
the
that
same
I knew I
about
was
Brennan.
one of the only people in the United States, board certified and residency trained in emergency medicine, and also residency trained in forensic pathology. And therefore, I had a unique skill or knowledge set. And I was one of the very few people that had the knowledge of dog bites, as well as those other trainings.
And because of the fact that you held this opinion about yourself,
answer.
you wanted to get involved in this
Held
very
this
high-profile
opinion
case,
about
didn't you?
yourself.
I thought I could help
dick.
clarify the issues as to whether or not this could be a dog bite, and maybe they could move on to something else if it wasn't.
Did you want to get involved?
No, not really.
Inevitably, you got hired by the defense, didn't you?
Yes, I reluctantly agreed.
And they paid for your time.
They are paying for the time.
Did you know that there was a relationship between the district attorney you spoke to in California and somebody on this defense table?
I know, yes.
So when you spoke to the district attorney, did you have the hope that they would reach out on your behalf to get you involved in this case?
As I said, I hoped that they could reach out to the team and I could help clarify issues so that they could move on. If these weren't dog bites, then no sense spending a whole bunch of time on it.
After you testified in this case
But
last
they
year,
are dog bites.
you then
Should
began
have
to
ended that.
advertise yourself as a dog bite expert, didn't you?
I had advertised myself many years ago as a dog bite expert. I think I'm not sure, but yes, I did advertise myself as a emergency medicine and forensic pathology expert
Did you take
with other sub interests.
Sure. Did you take a photograph of you testifying at trial and put it on a website to promote
Oh, shut up.
your accomplishments?
Hank, you have an
It's a
IMDb.
listing service for physicians, and yes, there is.
That's
Can you
true.
just point out that get out of my way, Cat. That your witness put on his website that he had a bachelor's degree and didn't. So how about that? At least she's
How-
not
How
lying.
about your meteorologist who takes things from like WeatherBug and then says, we provide accurate, detailed weather analysis for $300 a month? I
All
mean,
of the criticisms that he's making of her right now could be made about him. Oh, you got into this high profile case after it started. Oh, you're getting paid a whole crap ton of money. Oh,
Did you get a free Lexus SUV to be here?
right?
I mean, this woman only has like 900 convicts. She's got to put, what happened to them, how many times they got shivved. She doesn't want to be here. She had to fly to Massachusetts and then sit on this uncomfortable chair and listen to you prattle.
Yeah.
Rather have
Here's
a
a photograph.
colonoscopy in Walmart.
It's not in mine.
Thank you for that beautiful message of hope and healing,
photograph-
Brandon.
Yes, thank you, Brandon.
Photograph from your participation in this event.
Yes, that's there.
And you used that photograph in your participation in this event to try to procure future work, didn't you?
I'm gonna cut your
I wouldn't say
phone
that was the reason. No.
When you listed a number of things that you have experience in after this case, you then added that you were an expert in dog bites, didn't you?
I believe I am an expert in dog bites. Yes.
But after this case,
So
and
does the
after
court,
you took the photograph,
by
in
the
this case,
way,
and after
because they
you
allowed her to
gave
be an expert
this
witness on
advertising,
dog bites.
Mhm.
You then added the fact that you were an expert in dog bites, didn't you?
It was all at the same time. And it was submitted at the same time.
Right. After this case, after you participated and
Well-
volunteered to involve yourself in this case, you then used it as a marketing opportunity, didn't you?
Well, I had retired from my full-time job, and I had time, and I wanted to get more involved in some forensic legal cases, and not specifically dog bite cases. I have much more experience with other cases.
Undoubtedly, I respect that. But simply, after
Oh,
you
he
testified in this
respects it
case,
now.
you did use your
Douchebag.
participation
He's losing
as a
this.
way to try to garner future interest in cases and income, didn't you?
I
That's-
did, but I did not mention this case.
Have you testified in any
It's
other
the same
court
as
since this
Aperture
case
putting their
as a
experts'
dog bite
credentials out there.
No.
Did you hear
had
what he
written
just asked
a
her?
few articles
Oh,
that
can
were
you go
No.
back? I'm sorry, I was
on
back
dog
a little.
bites back in, is it the 1990s?
Listen to the stupidity
I
in this
did-
question.
Testified in this case, you did use your participation as a way to try to garner future
Not that one.
interest in cases and income, didn't you?
I did, but I did not mention this case.
Have you testified in any other
This.
court since this case as a dog bite expert?
No.
She's currently on the stand, you
You had written
moron.
few
You
articles that
absolutely.
were peer reviewed on dog bites back in, is it the 1990s?
Yes.
And they involved law enforcement canines.
Yes.
And you describe in those articles
How
how a
is
law
there an
enforcement
all
canine
are
grabs and holds,
involved?
that technique they call it,
Yes.
where they
I love
lock
it.
their jaw
The
and
law.
then they pull and hold on to the subject that they're attacking or holding.
Yes, that's what they were trained to do back then.
And you would agree that there's a difference between generally the way a domestic dog bites and a law enforcement dog bites.
Generally, yes.
Since those two articles in 1990, have you authored anything else regarding dog bites?
No.
Ooh, I wonder if we're going to now find out that Chloe was in
You had
fact
mentioned that
police
you had
trained.
gone to seminars regarding
At some point.
identification. Now, I had a chance to ask you
Now that she's
a number of months
testified
ago
that
about some
it looks like a
details
civilian
about
dog bite,
training and education
all of a sudden
you
we
have
get the
on
paperwork.
pattern
That'd be
recognition
interesting.
analysis as it specifically relates to dog bites. Remember I asked you those questions a number of months ago?
I believe you did.
And I'd asked you if you could give us any specific listed trainings that you had regarding pattern recognition analysis of dog bites. And at that time, you did not have any names of any classes or seminars or certificates that you have. You mentioned again today that you have attended seminars regarding dog identification analysis. Do you now know some of those trainings and seminars? And are any of those listed on your CV?
The trainings that I went to on bite marks in general, they were bite marks in general, and included things like how to determine what was a human bite, how to differentiate a human bite from a dog bite. But no, I did not specifically attend seminars limited to dog bites only. However, actually, there was one this past February that I did attend at the American Academy of Forensic Science.
Over your many, many decades, you did not attend
Come on.
any seminars on pattern recognition analysis of dog bites, did you?
Specifically dog bites? No.
I only want to talk about dog bites. I know you're well trained and educated. I respect that, but I want to talk about dog bites. You
I
didn't
hate him so
obtain
much.
Any certificates?
He's such a douche
in
canoe.
pattern
Can we
recognition
call it?
analysis of dog bites? Did you?
I don't think there are any that exist, any training programs like that.
In fact, forensically, have you ever been presented with a wound and been asked to determine whether or not the source of it was a dog bite, other than right here in this very case? Have you ever been asked to do that in your entire history?
In my clinical career, perhaps once or twice, but not, not that I can give you a specific name.
Well, the couple times, tell us what stands out. When were you asked ever over your entire career to do a forensic evaluation of a wound
If
and
this is all
identify
he
whether
has-
it was a dog bite? When did that happen?
A forensic evaluation? No, never,
Never.
never.
Okay.
It just doesn't come up.
And so this is the first shot, the first crack you've had at looking at a photograph and trying to make a determination based just on a photograph, whether or not
That's
the
not
wound
the same.
is
That's not the
generated
same
from
thing.
a particular mechanism.
No,
and
you're asking
a
a-
dog bite.
No, actually, I disagree. I've been taking photographs of dog bites since the 1990s.
Expand on this as
Took the
much as you
photograph and
can,
knew they
Dr.
were
Russell.
dog bites.
I did know that there were dog bites.
Have you
Yes, I have a collection.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I have a collection.
So not when you knew it was a dog bite and you took a photo. I know you have an interest. I'm asking, other than this case, there was never, ever a time in your career where you were presented with a photo and asked to give an opinion whether the mechanism of injury was a dog bite, other than this case.
That's correct.
So this is not a pattern recognition analysis engagement that you have any experience in before this effort.
I've recognized that pattern many times.
I appreciate your opinion, but I want to ask my question. You do not have experience over your long, accomplished career in the effort of pattern recognition analysis of dog bite wounds. Isn't that fair to say?
Okay.
You mentioned before, and you mentioned again, so I want to ask you some more questions. You believe that you are uniquely qualified to look at a photograph and give an opinion about the source of the injury.
Yes.
I'm not uniquely qualified. That's done all the time in forensic pathology. Many forensic pathologists do that.
Did you just say you're one of the very few physicians in the United States who has both the forensic and the clinical
That's not what
experience
she said.
to look at a photograph and make a determination, the mechanism of injury?
No, I said, if I said that, then that was incorrect. I meant dog bites. But your question just now was not specific to dog bites.
You're right.
Postmortem photographs are used all the time in forensic pathology for second opinions.
You're right. My apologies. Did you say today and before, have you said that you believe you're one of only few physicians in the United States who could authoritatively distinguish between causes of wounds when it relates to dog bites?
I did say that, and that's because of my unique training. I don't know of another doctor in the whole United States that did 2 residencies, one in emergency medicine and one in forensic pathology, and has a lifelong interest in dog bites.
So, Dr. Russell, from your perspective, as far as you know, you were the only person in the entire United States of America who was qualified to look at a photograph
You are
and make a determination whether the wound was derived from a dog bite.
No, I am one of I'm the only physician that I know of that can do that. There may be a few others out there. There may be, but I don't know of any other physicians that can do that.
Do you recognize anybody other than yourself who has this very particular expertise to be able to do this kind of work?
I'm not aware of anyone.
You were a medical examiner, a forensic pathologist,
Yes.
and you know there's about, or would you agree there's probably about 900 to 1,000 medical examiners around the country at the same time over a
All
period
this
of
is
time?
doing is
I believe that there might be
her credibility.
Yeah,
in
there's
my opinion.
probably. I think there's around 500 or 600 practicing forensic pathologists.
And do you think because they are forensic pathologists, those 500 or 600 people have the unique qualifications as you do to be able to give an opinion about the
No.
genesis of a
You
wound?
absolute dick. So this is why she took so long to explain her her fascination that started or was rooted in her police work and then working in the jail where she saw a lot of these bites, which started this. Again, this is a very specified thing. And forensic odontology is more of it can be included in or excluded, but not a, 100%, analytical science. Is much more subjective than people want to give it credit for, which is why they've made it more of a this bite mark and teeth can be included in this pattern or excluded from this pattern, but you're never going to have a Ted Bundy, mouth mold matched to teeth again.
Well, the state has somebody they're trying to pass off as a dog bite expert, but he's basically a dog behavioralist.
Well, and I thought the mold and dentition overlays were excluded because the American Academy of Sciences says that's not
I think they were
precise.
Or I don't know if she ruled on it, but I thought she did say that they were excluded. I don't know.
I don't remember what she ruled on, but I do know that it doesn't work with people, so I don't know why it would work with dogs like that.
Yeah. Whose is this?
I believe it was Mo's.
Oh.
No. Maybe it's from. Okay.
Oh, actually, it's here. Never mind. You have dog prawn too, Hank. No gaslighting. Sorry, Thank you, Brandon. I was used to you being in somebody else's chat.
Thank you, Brandon. Hank's penile decloving fund, if you will. It is no dream.
I'm actually kind of impressed that he hasn't gotten as bitchy as he did in Baudire.
I
Yeah.
think he realized how badly it would come across if he was a dick.
Mm-hmm.
But she
Yeah.
is testing him because she's basically saying, look, my entire career gives me the expertise to opine on this. No, there's not a class of dog bitology, but I have seen them on the ground. I worked in a prison, ward for LA. I mean, it's not like, I know this is going to be a shock to you, but LA in the early 80s, late 90s, kind of a dangerous place. Just a scotch.
Yeah.
That's the yeah, I almost wonder if he did it on purpose, right? If he was such a dick to her in voir dire, so she'd come in here all flustered and like ready for a fight, and then he'd just be direct and she'd look like the bad guy. But I don't think it's playing off that way.
She's
yet,
able
anyway.
to answer or say, you know what, I might have misspoke about this, but she doesn't look as calculated and as cunning and as bitchy as Denver, Jane Denver this morning.
Kelly.
Look,
Kelly
I've
Deaver.
changed her name. It pisses her off. She's going to be Joy Anna Denver from now on.
That's funny.
Wounds in general, perhaps. Dog bite wounds, I doubt that very many of them have a specific interest in dog bite wounds.
And so you think that of all those forensic pathologists, medical examiners, you think that qualification and experience itself is not enough to qualify somebody to give an opinion on a photograph about the genesis of a wound related to dog bites?
Well, if a forensic pathologist has autopsied 1 or 2 cases of dog bite wounds versus my experience with over 500 to 1,000 cases of dog bite wounds, I'm not so sure that person would be a very good expert in that kind of a case.
Have you ever heard of a doctor named Dr. La Posada?
I've heard of Dr. La Posada.
Have you ever read any reports by Dr. La Posada?
No,
Has anybody ever shared with you any information or opinions of Dr. La Posada?
I believe she has a very good reputation.
Have you ever? Well, how do you believe that? Who told you
Because I've heard of her name at national organizations. I believe she's given presentations nationally. I've seen her name, over a dozen years or so.
that? Do you know whether or not she has any participation in this case?
I believe she does.
Well, so when you're providing accolades that she has maybe some involvement in this case. Do you know that?
I would provide those same accolades if she didn't have involvement in
Brennan.
this case.
Do you know that she has involvement in this case?
I believe she does. The attorneys have not shared everything with me
Well,
in terms of who the witnesses are.
somebody must have shared her name. Who shared her name with you?
You did.
I'm
You
very
just
familiar
did.
outside this case.
Who shared her name that she may be a participant in this case?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Well, somebody might.
I think I got a file or something, but yeah.
So when you were reviewing this case, did you get materials from any of the attorneys authored by Dr. La Posada?
I don't think I read a report. I was very interested in reading a report by Dr. La Posada. I was very interested, but I didn't see one.
So when you received materials in this case, you didn't read all the materials the defense gave you?
I don't believe they gave me the report.
What report?
Any report that Dr. La Posada might have written.
Do you know whether or not you've received the report or not?
I received something that had her name on it. I don't remember what it was, but I was looking for a medical examiner's or a report, or an actual report, and I did not see one.
Dr. Russell, you are meticulous when you look and examine things.
Right.
So you would know what you've received and what you've read and what you haven't. So the fact that you're telling us.
I hate him so much. I
something
really do.
I want to.
information and share with us what it is you actually received about this Dr. La Posada. What did you get from the defense?
I saw something. I think it was the name of a file folder, but I looked for a report and there was no report in it.
Did you ever ask for one?
I didn't ask because I didn't ask. I really wanted to read it, but I didn't. It wasn't given to me, so I didn't ask.
Can you pause
Were
it,
you ever
Marissa?
told what other people's opinions might be regarding?
What is Hank's deal with? Were you impressed by Burgess being able to find the SD card and Dr. Pasala? I mean, she's kind of a big deal if you didn't know.
He's just trying to like get her credibility, the credibility of the defense.
But he's doing it in such a ham-fisted way. Like, were you pretty impressed with Burgess? I mean, he found an SD card.
Yeah.
And the other guy was like,
right?
no.
like what is she supposed to say? No, she sucks.
Yeah, Yeah,
You don't
it's
see
just,
that about somebody else anyway.
again, if there had been a report written, I'm sure that they would have given it to her. The fact that this is where her being imprecise with those very ticky-tacky words, Brennan is going to absolutely go on. Because she just kind of speaks colloquially and says, I might have seen her name. I knew she was involved at some point. I don't know.
She was probably referenced in
Yeah.
some stupid book he talked about in Vordaer.
Look, he's just mad he's never seen a girl's lady bits outside of his mom's when he was born.
Regarding those photographs?
I'm aware that there was a Dr. Sheridan involved in a previous proceeding, and he believed that those were consistent with dog bites.
Did you ever receive any reports from the defense about what other person's opinions would be in this trial about dog bites?
Oh, yes, I received a report authored by a non-physician. Yes.
So when you take on position, you're trying to make the point because you think that person might be your opponent in the case?
I don't have any opponents.
Okay, so why did you qualify him as a
Oh,
non-physician?
what is
Because I
this?
believe that I don't have any opponents.
Okay, so why did you qualify him as a non-physician?
Because I believe that in order to really understand wounds on a human being, one needs to have treated wounds, seen lots of wounds, and I think that the person that is best qualified for that is a physician.
So a medical examiner wouldn't cut it, in your opinion?
Medical examiner is a physician.
So you think a medical examiner has enough experience to come in and give an opinion on
So-
dog bites?
Some, but in their case, I would hope that they have had actual clinical experience with autopsying some cases where there were dog bite wounds, because I don't think they worked in the emergency room or any other clinical setting where they treated people. So I'd want to see if they had experience with dog
I'm
bites.
was trying to
doctor,
say
and this
that
qualification. How about a dog?
You don't have autopsies with dog bites very often because you don't die from a dog bite.
No, this is a very specific wound. It's not going to be found outside of a lot of places. She, in fact, might be the, most experienced practicing clinical doctor that has seen these.
Yes.
Again, and she's not trying to, again, I don't think she's a woman that would say, well, if he doesn't have a degree, he can't say anything. The problem she has with this, and as a medical doctor, I would too, if you are not used to looking at wounds on a body, especially when the body is curved, when you're going to have skin that moves, muscles that move, and you need to understand how those move on the body, how your bones are going to interact, all of this. Yeah, he might be a dog trainer expert that knows how dogs bite, but he is not going to know clinically how those look. He might take pictures of them, but he's not going to know the body processes. If this is a, deep wound, if this is just a dermal tissue top, if this is into the, I just hate this man so much.
Mm-hmm.
And yet every day he continues to talk.
Yeah.
They had experience with dog bites.
I'm doctor as a disqualification. How about a dog trainer? Would a dog trainer who's not a doctor have the experience in your mind to come in and give an opinion about photographs and the genesis of the wounds?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
How about a non-doctor, as you said, you made a distinction.
Uh-huh.
They're simply a dog trainer, maybe even an uncertified dog trainer. Would that person have the qualification
She's
in your
going
mind
after Garrett
Certified
Wing.
dog
photographs
trainer.
and determine whether or not the cause of the injury is the dog bite?
There may be a certain small subset of people who have, very much experience with dog bites that could qualify as suggesting that these are consistent with dog bites, but I don't think that they could definitively. I think that someone could, who dealt with many dog bites in the past on humans, could possibly say that they were consistent with.
Even if they didn't have the clinical experience?
Well, I prefer to hear that information from a physician, but I wouldn't rule out that only doctors, only a physician, MD, could
Don't
say
do
that
this,
something
lady. Come on.
was a dog bite.
It seems like the standard is now kind of changing a little bit.
Oh,
Because when I
you're
asked
such a
you-
dick.
Sustain.
You mentioned the
She
other
is
person
kinda doing that,
disqualified the person because they weren't
She
a
is,
doctor.
but
It seems now in some instances.
I know what she means, but
Well, she's being general.
well,
And
also
he's being
she's
very-
trying to get it out there, and she's
Hank,
falling
didn't
for
you-
it.
Didn't you go on about how experts don't need to have degrees when we got all, we found out Shannon with 2 or 1 N kind of was pending. He's like, you don't need a degree to understand this stuff. So kind of talking out of,
But like somebody who trains dogs all day long, I mean,
Training a dog isn't the same thing as bite work, right? Like there's
Right.
like the
yeah,
average
like
pet smart dog trainer isn't going to know squat about dog bite pattern
No.
recognition.
no.
But some of those
Exactly.
some of those dog bite trainers, the ones that work the shits in and stuff, like some of them have probably seen enough dog bites over the course of their life that they would be able to tell some of this stuff.
And
And that's all
think
she's
what-
saying. He's trying to trap
she's-
her in a corner and trying to
Yeah.
make her commit to this statement, and she's like, she's not going to do it for him. She's not going to lie. She's not going
No.
to get flustered like that. She's going to take her time and answer the questions accordingly.
Well, and
Yeah.
she's also saying
Yeah.
it's so specialized that she wouldn't disregard that, but she doesn't know of any other pathologist who have the extent of training that she does. I swear to goodness, I hate him.
Yeah.
He is.
But she's also, her training experience mainly is in, like, she's talking about looking at an arm on a dead guy that no one knows what happened and saying that's what she sees. I don't think that's for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, like, in a general sense, yes, I agree. Like, anybody that's around
just
dogs
being a
all the time
dick.
and deals with this.
He
Yeah.
is being a dick.
Yeah.
I'm
He's
sure
trying to get her
Alessi will clean
shook.
it up.
He's trying to get her shook, and I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But he's trying
This-
to get
she has
her
worked
to
in
discredit Garrett
prisons.
Wing.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think you can shake this woman up. She's got albums of dog bites. She just collects dog bite pictures. I mean, I don't know
I
if you
know.
could
I
scare
have
this
a
woman.
collection. Like, oh my gosh. I wonder if she has them, like framed in a room. That's
She
what I
got 'em.
Follow-up questions.
Imagine.
I need to see
She's in a
this.
binder.
She's got them in categories based on size of dog.
Oh,
She
precious.
starts out with a Chihuahua book. It's very short.
The Chihuahua book would be long as hell. Them dogs are bitey.
Yeah. They're mean.
The Dachshund wiener dogs are mean. Look,
Well, think about it too. Like, now I'm thinking about it. Like, he's kind of, if he starts getting this questioning out too, of like, oh, so I'm not a doctor would be qualified, then you're kind of like making it for the defense too with Garrett Wing. So I guess this is fine. Keep questioning her, Brennan.
yeah,
Genders now
you just
trying
could
to
do it
change
in not a dick way.
I know.
Mhm.
Because when I asked you,
Sustain.
you mentioned the other person, you disqualified the person because they weren't a doctor. It seems now in some instances, you're willing to accept a non-doctor into your very select group.
If someone, well, I can explain. If someone had looked at perhaps hundreds and hundreds of wounds inflicted by a dog that they know was inflicted by a dog, and they saw the resulting photographs on a person, I think that particular person may be able to make some comment as to whether or not some wounds are consistent. However, if, in terms of a medical examiner, if they've autopsied one case or 2 cases of dog bites and they're trying to testify based on some pictures, I would be a little concerned about that.
Does qualification for this type of business, in your mind, depend on who hires you?
Absolutely not.
Do you want me to bring this up?
Yeah, go for it. My client is innocent, Aunt Beth. And then I got one more for Jamie. Hold on a second. Here you go, Jamie. I got you. Figured you'd like that.
Oh yeah, the
There you go. There you
Grant
go.
with his shoestring belt.
Suffice to say, you've never taken a class in the forensic analysis of dog bites.
I don't think any class exists.
But I'm asking about your experience.
Well, that's correct.
You haven't, have you?
That's correct. I can't take a course that doesn't exist.
You've never engaged
She's only taken like
So,
every other
in looking
course.
at photographs and then had that
Right.
reviewed by other dog bite experts, have you?
She could
Look,
teach this.
not
course.
on the no.
Do you have any experience in veterinarian medicine?
I'm aware of it. That's my experience.
Do you have any accomplishments like degrees?
Why?
Now, you've testified a number of times in this case, haven't you?
The dog didn't get bit.
And when you
Veterinarians
testified,
do
you
not.
wrote a report on
Oh
your
my
transcripts,
God.
correct?
Sir.
You originally testified when you first came out and volunteered to testify last year, and there was a hearing before trial, wasn't there?
Excuse me? Say again,
When
please.
you volunteered to come out last year, there was a hearing before you testified at trial, wasn't there?
Yes,
Do you remember that was
Get
on June
mad at
18,
her for not being
2022?
able to hear.
sounds right.
And then you then testified at trial on June 21st, 2022.
Yes.
I didn't have the privilege of meeting you on either of those events, did I?
No.
But since then, we have met,
Yes.
and we had a chance to speak at a subsequent hearing on December 12, 2024.
Yes.
And then after that, we again had an opportunity to discuss this on January 7, 2025.
Yes.
When you reviewed the case, when you first reviewed it before you testified last year, you had very limited information, didn't you?
Yes.
You had just an autopsy report, photographs from the coroner, photographs from the hospital, and an emergency room report. Yes?
Yes. I had more than that.
The medical examiner file had a toxicology report.
Yes. And there was more.
Okay.
I believe there was a dog bite, a town of Canton report.
Okay. So when you had an opportunity to look at the medical examiner's report, you yourself had been a medical examiner, correct?
Yes.
And there was a unique advantage of actually conducting an autopsy as opposed to just looking at photographs, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
And if you were actually conducting the autopsy, you firsthand can make observations about injuries, make measurements, and see things that don't always appear in photographs.
That's correct.
And when you would do medical exams, you had a distinct advantage over people who would later see your work, a written report, or photographs, because you were there actually conducting the investigation.
Yes.
And it's for that reason that when you testified before, you have acknowledged that you relied on Dr. Scordi-Bello's report for information,
Yes.
because you didn't have the benefit of doing measurements or looking at depths or anything else firsthand.
Yes. Correct.
And when you look at that photograph that you discussed with the jury, you also had a chance to see Dr. Scordi-Bello's report regarding the abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
Yes.
She described those abrasions as superficial, didn't she?
Yes.
She actually gave measurements, 3 centimeter superficial abrasion on the right medial upper arm. Right?
Yes.
You not only read that, you deferred to her ability to have a first-hand observation, and you accepted that as true, didn't you?
Yes, but there's no interpretation of that abrasion.
Multiple abrasions from 2 to 3 millimeters and up to 7 centimeters on the posterior right arm and forearm.
Yes.
Did you read that from
I
Dr.
did.
Scordi-Bello?
Yes.
Did you accept her finding and
Yes.
observation?
Yes.
And you would agree she was in a far superior position than you when she made these observations and notes, correct?
They are not inconsistent with what I said.
That's not what I asked, though.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be sharp.
There's nobody asked though.
Did he
Did
say
you
I
rely
didn't mean to
on
be
her
sharp?
ability and
Sorry, I had to sped
he's
up like
trying
probably
to
too
be
much.
cool. Yeah, because I was like, wait, he's talking way too
Dingus, you ate the last chicken finger.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the cat.
Sorry.
Ah,
That's not.
first-hand observation of those wounds?
Yes.
And did you appreciate or accept the fact she had a superior opportunity to evaluate those wounds firsthand that you did not have the benefit of?
She made no interpretation of those ones.
Well, did you know that Dr. Scordi-Bello had described them as superficial?
They are
Did you know that she said there was no depth and no puncture?
not inconsistent with what I said.
I understand, doctor, but I'm asking you, do you
I know.
know that her position is that there was no puncture and no depth to those wounds?
Her position is also that it couldn't have been a car accident.
Yeah, and she didn't
Can you answer
determine
that
what the
question
wounds
without
were
saying it, or do
from.
you need to see it?
Well, I
Well, this is
I'm really-
also not different than what you would do for an outside consult. If you had another, so if this was a training, medical examiner, basically your, evaluator would just look at your medical report. It's exactly what Dr. Scordi-Bello and I think Dr. Stonebridge did with their reports.
now,
So
is he just picking and choosing when he listens to Dr. Scordi-Bello?
Well, yeah.
he picks and chooses
Very
when he
much so.
listens to
Yeah,
any
of
of these
course.
witnesses.
He's a dick.
Before we get
Consistent with what I said.
going, Stringer Bell gifted 5 Valhalla Weights memberships. Thank you so much. Congratulations to Jill McCann, Kimberly Ray, Snarkasm, Yolio, hey Yoli, and Miss Wee Lassie. Congratulations. Welcome to the Goat Herd. You guys have awesome new emojis.
Thanks, Pete. I have to glove you. Fuck you.
I think I already read that one. I could
Somebody
be wrong
did.
though.
Thank you, Brandon. Lefty studies patterns found in bloody axe wounds. Gross. Well, thank you, everybody. And let's.
I understand, doctor, but I'm asking you, do you
I-
know that her position is that there was no puncture and no depth to those wounds?
Cat.
To those
Can you answer that
wolves.
question without saying it, or do you need to see it?
Well, I remember it, but I there's no inconsistency here. I agree with that.
Would you accept that Dr. Scotti-Bello's opinion is that there was no depth and no puncture to those wounds?
May I see the report?
It might not be in the report. I'm asking about any testimony. Anything that she's ever
Did you
said.
see her
Do you
face?
agree or accept her position
Wait a minute.
that there is no
She
puncture or
asked
depth to
for it.
those wounds?
Port you.
It might not
dickhead.
be in the report, is what he just said.
Well,
Yeah.
and hasn't she been sequestered? Or wait, she's an expert, so shouldn't she have been allowed to?
Yeah. She can see. You muted yourself. Your cat muted you.
Dingus, I swear to God, I gave you my last chicken finger so you'd be good.
That didn't work.
Well, yeah, I mean, because he's a cat.
Ever said, would you agree or accept her position
Watch
that there
her
is no
face.
puncture or depth to those wounds?
Objection, Your Honor, like all the questions that were about an autopsy.
Oh, you backed up a little bit.
Okay.
It's okay.
Oh, wait. Wasn't he having a
Right, to those
coronary
wounds.
about
You
asking
agree.
Dr.
It might not
Welcher
be-
about
but
how
there
we're
was no-
relying
Tina,
on
do you need to see it?
Well,
reports? So how can he question her about this?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, she's not said anything
Maybe
different.
I'm wrong,
It's-
but I was just thinking that because I was like, why is he getting so deep into this stuff? And we weren't allowed to
Yeah.
get into the other stuff.
I remember it, but there's no inconsistency here. I agree with that.
Would you accept that Dr. Scotti-Bello's opinion is that there was no depth and no puncture to those wounds?
May I see the report?
It might not be in the report. I'm asking about any testimony, anything that she's ever said. Would you agree or accept her position that there is no puncture or depth to those wounds?
That was funny.
So,
Oh,
it's not in
God.
the report, huh? Odd. Vince Clortho just gifted 5 Valhalla Weights memberships. Thank you so much. Congratulations, Pramila, Kiska Hamblin, Nikki to y'all budgets, Kim at Red Queen, and Jay. Congratulations, you guys. You all get awesome new emojis. Like Fluffy here.
May I?
Thank you so much, Vince.
Dr. Russell, I read to you the measurements that were in Dr. Scotti-Bello's report. Are you aware that she testified that these superficial abrasions did not have any depth or any puncture?
It doesn't mean what you think.
I don't
it
recall
means.
that.
Well, would you agree if Dr. Scotti-Bello testified in this court that those superficial abrasions did not have any puncture or depth?
She
Would
didn't
you
hear
agree with
it.
that assessment?
Objection, Your Honor.
In that form, it's sustained.
Would you agree that the superficial abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm had no punctures?
I agree.
Would you agree that the abrasions, the superficial abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm had no depth?
No measurable depth. Yes.
Between the last time you testified and then you testified here today, have you spoken to the attorneys at all regarding the issue of
Exactly.
punctures?
No.
Because you are agreeing today that those superficial abrasions did not have any punctures, right?
They don't appear to have any punctures.
But you, in the past, have testified very, very differently than that, haven't you?
No.
Now, we've spoken many times. I'm going to go through many of those examples later, but we'll do that a little bit later, Dr. Russell.
Not reading that one, Brandon.
Over the course of your many testimonies under oath, would it be fair to say that you have changed your opinions about the superficial abrasions to John O'Keefe's arm many times?
I don't believe that's fair to say.
In the past, when you were describing Mr. O'Keefe's superficial abrasions on his arm, did you give varying and different opinions about the cause of each individual wound, area of wound?
I don't believe so.
When you first gave opinions, that was before the last proceeding. You came in and you were questioned before you testified in that initial proceeding, right? I'm trying to be as specific as I can. You testified last year,
Yes.
And before- please.
There was a hearing and then there was a proceeding.
That prior hearing, can we call the first event the prior hearing and the next one the prior proceeding?
I'm confused.
I don't want to confuse you. I'm just trying to follow the rules. You testified twice last year, didn't you?
3 times.
3 times. Okay. The first time you testified was just before the judge?
Yes.
Okay. when you first testified before the judge, do you remember that you had uncertainty about
Testy.
how each and every one of those wounds was caused?
Testy.
I don't remember that.
Do you remember when you then testified a couple of days later at the proceeding that some of your opinions changed from the first time you testified?
I don't believe that.
And then when you later met me and we had a chance to talk over the last two events, December and January, would it be fair to say that your opinions regarding the individual areas of wound changed?
I don't believe so.
Okay. At some point before or during our conversations in December and January, you wrote a report, didn't you?
Yes,
When you wrote that report, you hadn't written a report before the first time you came in and testified, had you?
that's correct.
And it was between those hearings in December and in January where you wrote your first report.
Sounds correct.
You dated that report December 9, 2024. Does that ring a bell?
Yes,
When you wrote that report, you did not write that report alone, did you?
I did.
You had some help, didn't you?
Not in the content of the report.
Well, you sent the report back a number of times for review and revisions, didn't you?
In terms of organization,
And some of the language in this report is really not your language. It's the language of somebody who helped you write some of this, isn't it?
you know, if somebody helped me write it, it would have been much better written than that.
Didn't you agree that you had some assistance with the report? Haven't you testified to that before?
And no, and in terms of organization, there was some comments, though, this sentence belongs, with this paragraph or whatever. But in terms of content, that was my work.
Well, it was your report, correct?
It's my report.
And when you write a report, it's your words, not somebody else's. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
But nevertheless, you had somebody assisting you. True.
In terms of organization, yes.
Who was helping you with the report?
It was somebody from the law office.
Oh, it was this gentleman right here, Attorney Alisi, who just asked you questions. He helped you,
No,
didn't he?
actually, it wasn't.
Was it from his law firm that somebody helped you?
I believe so, but it was in terms of organization.
Do you remember who was helping you with your report?
I don't remember her name.
Would you agree that after that report was written, many of your opinions changed?
No,
In your report, you provide your background. Yes?
yes,
And you've been licensed to practice medicine since 1988
yes,
as a physician?
yes.
And you've been licensed to practice medicine as a surgeon?
It's called, in California, it's called physician and surgeon license.
You have a physician and surgeon's license?
I do.
Okay. Have you ever practiced as a surgeon?
Well, in the emergency department, we do surgery. We have to do some surgery sometimes. We have to open up people's chests and compress the heart sometimes when they have gunshot wounds to the chest. I've had to put chest tubes in. I've had to debride dog bite wounds and other wounds. So yes, there is a component of surgery.
If you do stitches, that's considered surgery, isn't it?
Maybe.
Well, medically speaking, stitches is surgery.
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay. Do you have a surgeon's license?
I have a physician and surgeon's license in California.
Now, when you first looked at this case and testified, do you remember when you were looking at Mr. O'Keefe's superficial wounds, you said that you thought they appeared to be consistent with an animal attack?
I do remember that.
And when you were describing animal attack, you were a lot less specific than you were today, weren't you?
Yes.
You were less sure about your opinion when you first testified about this case than you provided to this jury today.
I was certain that it was a dog attack. However, as I mentioned before to you, in medicine, we're taught never, nothing is 100%, and therefore never say, anything's 100%. So that's why I gave that generalization. However, I have reviewed the case. I personally was certain that those were dog marks. Now, I have reviewed this case over and over and over again. Plus, I've read additional articles more than once, and which substantiate again my findings. So my degree of certainty perhaps increased.
So when you first testified in this case, back in June of 2022, are you agreeing that your testimony was less certain than today?
I believed that it was a dog attack at that time.
When you testified, you didn't say dog attack, you said animal attack at the beginning, didn't you?
Yes.
And when you were asked about the cause, you said that it could be bite or scratch wounds.
Correct.
So back in June, when you were looking at individual wounds, you, at that time anyways, were unable to differentiate between bite and scratch wounds.
They are very similar.
I understand, but today you seem pretty unequivocal. So I want to go back to the beginning and see the evolution. I'm asking a question.
That's not what she
Right.
said.
Asked and
So
answered.
the argumentative part is out. Ask the question, Mr. Wood.
I want to go back to identify the evolution of your opinions. So let's start at the beginning.
So, question, please.
At the beginning, before your opinion evolved, you started with an opinion that this could have been either bite or scratch wounds, right?
Yes.
And if there was actually a methodology where you could identify superficial abrasions and make a determination whether it was from an animal or a dog, there would be something definitive, specific, where you
Aren't
could identify
dogs
a scratch
animals?
from a
Just
bite wound.
asking
Wouldn't
for.
there
I'm
be?
not a veterinarian.
No.
Yeah.
Brennan. Also, let's go, Brennan. Thank you. Last year, my friends and I got arrested for vandalizing a graveyard, $10K in damage, but we got a great lawyer who knocked it down to criminal trespassing and necrophilia. Way to beat the man and stick it to him after death, Brennan. Or Brandon. Sorry, I'm thinking
Brandon.
another.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking, yeah, sorry. That, yeah, I didn't mean you to put you in with Brandon.
Not unless there was a piece of tooth in the wound or a piece of nail. There would otherwise not be any specificity.
You talked about patterns when you first testified back in June of last year.
Mhm.
And when you talked about the patterns, again, you had some uncertainty whether those patterns were caused by nails, claws, or could have been caused by teeth. Isn't that fair to say originally that was your position?
There is some overlap in terms of the appearances. They can appear very similar, and they can be arranged very similar in terms of parallel lines.
In fact, when you first testified, you weren't consistently even saying that it was a dog, or as you say today, dog attack. You were saying, in your opinion, that they were the result of animal bites or scratches. That was what you originally opined, isn't it?
We just went through that, yes.
And at some point, you said that it might most likely be a large dog. Do you remember that?
Objection, Your Honor. Can we approach with regard to this line of questioning?
So why don't we take a break for today? All right, so jurors, we're not going to finish this today in the next 5 minutes, so it seems like it's a good place to break. I do have to give you those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. Please be very careful with your social media use. Tomorrow is also a full day next evening. Thank you very much. Dr. Russell, you can again just call.
Thank you.
Open, open, follow me.
Okay, thank you.
Can I see counsel while the jury's filing out, please?
Skip forward with the buttons.
Oh, Bev's out of there. Bev's like, it's a Monday. I'm out.
Yeah. We're muted.
Was this not for our ears?
Not for us.
Now, I will say the doctor was getting a little irritated toward the end. You could tell her cheeks were flushing, but I think,
She was also probably hot.
well, she also has to deal with Brennan, who is specifically impugning her knowledge, her experience, and basically saying, well, you were kind of lying this entire time, and you were a fame hound, and you wanted clout.
Yeah.
Well, then.
Well, today has been weird.
Today's been quite the day. We had the Boston cop who used to be a Canton cop and apparently fled town and made a statement to the FBI originally saying that Higgins and Chief Urey, was it? Not Chief Urey, Chief
Berkowitz.
Berkowitz, thank you. And Higgins were in the Sally Port with the car for a wildly long time by themselves, and she found that strange. And
I
now
mean,
she
it is
changed her story.
apropos on the day Linda Kasabian gets, or recommended for parole. So, Manson family reference apropos.
She also told the jury that the FBI was involved in this case somehow.
Yeah, that was not good, and that she was threatened with prosecution by the defense, which I find to be the most credible part of
Perjury.
her testimony.
Yeah. Perjury charges they were going to file on her. And then, of course, we had Dr. Russell, who very, very clearly believes this to be a dog attack. And I think Hank's trying to fight back, and it's not exactly going well.
Yeah, getting the terribly uncomfortable witness to not say the C
Oh,
word.
I forgot about that guy too. I forgot about that guy. They had Proctor's text come in through Proctor's friend somehow, and then Brennan got to edit the wording.
I know. I love how the friend was like, "These are naughty words, and I go to communion every day, and these
like,
make my soul cry."
He knew that if he read that, he'd be listening to himself say that for the next week straight on everybody's social media account. It's like, you're not clipping me dropping C bombs on the jury. Not doing it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's it. I don't know how to do this thing.
Oh, hey, you guys. I'm Mo from Mo in the Deep End, and every morning weekday morning at 8, I do about an hour, 45 minutes, headlines, true crime, and the absurd, and apparently all Hollywood deaths. Apparently, I'm collecting them like this witness collects dog bites.
It's a weird
How do I
Dexter binder.
switch?
You can either click and drag on the side, right? Isn't there, or on the bottom, I think.
I don't
You can
know.
switch to positions like that. You can click and drag and do it that way. Or above everybody's picture on the bottom, I think you can do the solo layout from there too.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Well, Holly,
Put
you
me in
go.
the top left corner. Put me in the top left corner
Okay.
where Mo is. Now do the same thing you just did. There you go.
Yay!
We're learning, y'all. What's going on today? That was my bad. My mic knocked my monitor. Anyway, today was eventful, to say the very least. And the next 12 hours in Valhalla's life is going to be extremely eventful because Baker's getting in tonight, and that's exciting. Dollywood Week is here, y'all. We are making the Karen Reed trial happen in the meantime. And thank you all for being here. Appreciate you.
Alrighty. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Later, y'all.
You are such a liar that you should be encased in flames from your pants right now. That's what Pernilla sends me.
She says it's so funny.
I can barely do a hula hoop, so I'm just so proud of him, and he's
With
doing it in
heels,
high
don't.
heels.
Yeah,
I
I can't
know.
hula hoop whatsoever.
I mean, I'm gonna say this is a triumphant. Bless his heart. He is
Oh,
just
it's
making
split.
them outfits sparkle.
I don't know. What are you talking about? I think you said something earlier, but I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. Pretty much. He's friends with Dixie Normus. I don't know who that is either. Oh, jeez. Dang it.